In this lesson, we are going to take a look at several different ways that you can draw arcs in AutoCAD. The arc command is found on the Home tab in the Draw panel. You can also type A, then press Enter at the keyboard. The default version of the arc command is the 3-point arc. When you select the 3-point arc, you will then pick 3 points that the arc will run through. It's important to note that the second point is not necessarily the midpoint of the arc. So for example, I can pick 3 points around this shape, and you can see that I can either go clockwise or counterclockwise depending on how I move my mouse. Pick my third point, and you can see the arc has been created. So we'll take a look at one more example of the 3-point arc. Again, I'll just pick a start point and then a point somewhere along the arc. Happens to be the midpoint on this one, and then finally my third point. I'm going to delete these real quick, and we'll take a look at some other options for creating arcs. If you click the drop down underneath the arc command, you will see several different ways that you can create arcs. We'll look at a few of them. Let's start with the start, center, end. So as it indicates, you're going to pick the start point, the center point of the arc, and then finally the end point. It's important to note that AutoCAD draws arcs counterclockwise. So when I'm picking my start, center, and end, I need to think about the direction the arc is going to go. I'll choose the command, and what I would like to do is draw a half circle, an arc over here on the right side of this rectangular shape. Again, I want to think about the fact that it's going to draw counterclockwise. So this bottom point would be the best start point. Then the center point would be the midpoint of the line. And again, you can see that it's drawing counterclockwise, so my end point would simply be this top point here. So I'll repeat the process on the left side of this shape. I'll begin my start, center, end arc again. Notice that it's the default button now. It's also important to note that when you press enter to repeat the last command, AutoCAD is going to repeat the default version of the arc command, which is the 3-point arc. So I must come up and click the button again to create another start, center, end. Once more, thinking about the direction the arc is going to travel, it will go counterclockwise, so the top point would be a good start point, then my center, and then finally my end point. And of course, on this example, I can erase these construction lines so that I'm left with the slot. Another option I have for drawing arcs is start, center, and angle. The angle is the included angle of the arc. So in the case of the arcs that I just drew, they're half circles, so they would be 180-degree included angles. You can specify the angles by typing them in or just clicking a point on your screen. The main advantage of using the start center angle over the start center end is that while arcs are typically drawn counterclockwise, we can force it to draw clockwise by putting in a negative angle value. So let's take a look at that. I am going to start with my start point on the top here, and then my midpoint will be my center. And once more, as you can see, AutoCAD wants to draw this counterclockwise. I am going to change this by typing in a negative 180, then pressing enter. And as you can see, I can actually draw clockwise now using this option. I'll do this one more time. So once more, I'll pick my start point and my center point. It wants to draw counterclockwise. I type in negative 180 to force it to clockwise. Then once again, I can erase these construction lines. Let's take a look at another arc option. We have start, center, length. The length is going to be the chord length or the straight line distance from the start point to the end point of the arc. So for demonstration purposes, I'm going to erase a couple of these lines, and I'm going to locate the center of this next arc. So if you look at what I have the start point and I have the center point, and I would have the end point out here, but I don't have an actual line to click on, but I could specify the length value. So I'll go start, center, length. There's my start point. There's my center. Once again, it wants to draw counterclockwise. And then my length is just simply going to be 2. So I'll type 2, then press enter to construct that arc. So the best arc command just simply depends on what type of geometry you have to work with. Taking a look again at the arc dropdown, I'm going to skip this next group and take a look at this group down here. These are basically the same exact 3 arcs that I just drew, but we specify the center point first instead of the start point. If I back up a little bit here, we have start end angle, so very similar to start center angle, but this time I'm picking the end point instead of the center point. And then two that are a little different, start end direction and start end radius. Let's look at start end radius first here. So for this one, I'm going to choose a start point and an end point, and I'm simply just going to type in a radius value. So for example, I want to create a couple of arcs inside here. I'll choose start end radius. And once more, always remember that AutoCAD wants to draw these counterclockwise. I'm going to choose this point here as my start point, and then my end point. And then I can just simply type in a value to specify the radius, and the arc value has to make sense. It actually has to fit inside here. So I'll type 2.5, then enter. So let's do that one more time. Again, knowing that it's going to go counterclockwise, I'll have my start point here, my end point here, and then 2.5 and enter for my radius value. Let's next take a look at the start end direction. So in this example, I have some lines of tangency. And if I'm creating a half circle, then basically it's going to be tangent to the vertical line. But I can also construct the arc tangent to other lines. I'll choose the start end direction option. And then I'll pick my start point and my end point. And then for my angle, I'll just move it along this 90-degree angle and click. So I have the half circle tangent to the vertical line. I'll start the command again, start, end, and then this time I'm going to move along this 60-degree angle and click. So I now have constructed an arc tangent to this 60-degree angle. So very similarly, I can do the same thing on these next two to make an arc tangent to the 45-degree angle and to make one tangent to the 30-degree angle as well. There's one more arc option in here, and that is the continue option. So the continue option is similar to the continue option of the line command. It will just simply continue from the last point. But in the case of arcs, it will construct them as tangent arcs. So I'm going to begin by drawing a 3-point arc out here in space. And then I will choose the continue option. And as you can see, it creates another arc tangent from that last one. In fact, as a shortcut, I'm going to press enter to repeat the last command and then enter again, which will take me right into the continue option. So by pressing enter twice, I can get a series of tangent arcs. This even works between the line commands. So if I start with a line and then choose the continue arc option, you can see it comes off tangent to that line. So some key points to remember: AutoCAD wants to calculate most arcs by drawing them in a counterclockwise direction. We have several different methods for drawing arcs, and the best method is strictly dependent on what type of geometry you have to snap to. That concludes this look at the arc command in AutoCAD.